Have you ever looked at an old ruin and thought, what secrets are still buried there? What if I told you that in just the past few years, scientists have cracked open ancient puzzles that were unsolved for centuries, with lasers, AI, and even X-rays? Some of the most mind-blowing revelations in archaeology didn't happen decades ago, they happened last year. Or last month. From cities swallowed by the sea to scrolls burned by volcanoes, from ancient highways revealed by laser scans to giant calendars carved into mountaintops. Today we're diving into 9 ancient mysteries that were recently, and finally, solved, not by guesswork or myth, but by cutting-edge science. And by the end of this video, you'll see how every one of these breakthroughs reshapes how we understand ourselves.
Let's get into it. Number 9 Maya Superhighways.
For a long time, historians thought of the Maya as city-states, beautiful stone temples in the middle of jungles, disconnected from one another. But then something incredible happened. Archaeologists started using LiDAR, that's laser scanning technology, to map the landscape from the air. What they discovered wasn't just a few paths here and there. They found massive stone highways, perfectly straight roads, stretching across the landscape for hundreds of miles. Over 650 square miles, in fact.
That is bigger than modern Las Vegas.
These weren't just trails for villagers. These were serious infrastructure projects, highways wide enough to move armies, trade goods, and host religious processions. And here's the kicker. Some of them were built in alignment with the stars, like ancient GPS systems based on solstices and celestial events. Dr. Elena Martinez, who worked on one of the sites, described walking through the jungle and stepping onto what looked like a stone runway. She said, "You feel the intent. You feel the scale." What this shows is that the Maya weren't isolated. They were interconnected, intentional, and advanced in ways we're just beginning to grasp.
Number 8 The Lost City of Thonis Herakleion.
You know how Atlantis is considered a myth? Well, this one turned out to be real. Off the coast of Egypt, there's a city that sank into the Mediterranean over 1,000 years ago. It was called Thonis Herakleion. For centuries, people thought it was just a story, until divers started finding giant statues underwater. Like 16-foot-tall granite statues of Egyptian gods, sitting face down in the mud. What caused the city to sink? Earthquake-triggered liquefaction. The ground beneath the city basically turned into quicksand.
Deole plus just, slid into the sea.
Frank Gaudio, the underwater archaeologist who led the team, said it was like time had stopped. Pottery, coins, even furniture, preserved beneath the waves, untouched for centuries. What's wild is that this city used to be the gateway to Egypt. All trade came through it. And one day, it just disappeared. Now, we're piecing it back together, one submerged temple at a time. Number 7 The True Colors of Greek Statues. If you've been to a museum, you've probably seen those classic white Greek statues. Smooth, elegant, carved from pristine marble. Yeah, turns out that's totally wrong. Recent studies using ultraviolet light and high-powered microscopes found traces of vibrant paint on these statues. We're talking electric blue, deep red, even gold leaf. They weren't elegant and white. They were loud and colorful. One statue, the Peplos Kore, was thought to be plain and demure. Turns out she was dressed in bold colors, with black hair, patterned robes, and even painted jewelry. She looked more like someone at a festival than a ghost. Why does this matter? Because for centuries, historians praised the pure white aesthetic, when really, we were seeing these statues with their makeup washed off. And that's not just about art history, it's about how we interpret cultures. The Greeks weren't minimalist. They were expressive, theatrical, and they wanted their gods and heroes to stand out. Number 6 Maya Poisoned Water. Now, back to the Maya for a second, because there's a darker side to their brilliance. They built advanced water reservoirs to survive long droughts. But here's the tragic part. They used a red pigment called cinnabar to decorate temples and paint the interiors of reservoirs. And cinnabar? That's mercury. Over time, rain washed the pigment into their water storage. Combined with toxic algae blooms, the reservoirs turned into death pools. Mercury levels found in some Maya cities would freak out a modern hazmat team. In one site in Guatemala, scientists dug into the sediment at the bottom of an ancient reservoir and found layer after layer of poison. It told a story, each drought, each attempt to hold on, marked by more mercury and more toxins. Eventually, when drought hit hard in the 9th century, people just abandoned their cities. Faced with the choice between drinking poison water or walking away, they walked. It's a haunting reminder that even the most brilliant civilizations can be brought down by the things they didn't fully understand. Number 5. Egyptian Inca that lasts 3,000 years. How do we still have readable Egyptian texts after thousands of years? The answer lies in chemistry. Egyptian scribes mixed lead compounds into their black and red inks. Not for color, but to make the ink dry faster and bond to the papyrus. When scientists scanned these writings with X-rays, they found the lead actually sank into the fibers, forming outlines around each hieroglyph. Think of it like an ancient permanent marker, way ahead of its time. At the University of Bologna, researchers used this method to analyze shopping lists, religious texts, and court documents written over 3 millennia ago. And they're still perfectly legible. One expert even said the ink was technically more stable than some modern printers. It's a small detail, but it shows how much ancient people valued permanence, clarity, and legacy. Number 4. The Shigar Idol. The world's oldest wooden monument. In 1890, some workers digging in a Siberian peat bog stumbled onto something strange. A giant wooden totem covered in carvings. It sat in storage for over 100 years, until radiocarbon dating revealed that it was over 12,000 years old. That's older than the pyramids. Older than farming. Older than pottery. It's called the Shigar Idol, and it stands nearly 17 feet tall, with 7 carved faces stacked on top of each other and mysterious geometric patterns carved throughout. The whole thing was carved using stone tools, probably sharpened beaver jawbones. Dr. Alexander Vasiliev, one of the researchers, described it as a kind of prehistoric monument that communicated with the spirit world. Whether it was a map, a myth, or a warning, no one knows for sure. What it does prove is that even hunter-gatherers, long before cities or written language, had symbolic thinking, storytelling, and a need to create something that would last. Number 3. Underwater wood circles in Europe. Under lakes in places like Germany and Switzerland, scientists have discovered mysterious wooden circles built with incredible precision. They look kind of like Stonehenge, but made of wood. Perfectly round, symmetrical, and carefully joined together with Stone Age tools. They were built on dry land thousands of years ago, and slowly sank as water levels rose. At Lake Constance, divers found beams arranged in patterns with radial spokes, clearly intentional. These weren't fallen logs. They were public spaces, ceremonial grounds, maybe even early calendars. What's incredible is that the low-oxygen lake water preserved the wood for thousands of years, turning it into a literal time capsule. These sites prove that prehistoric people were far more organized and community-driven than we often assume. Number 2. The Burned Scrolls of Herculaneum. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, it didn't just destroy Pompeii, it incinerated the nearby town of Herculaneum, including an entire library. The scrolls in that library were carbonized, turned into ash tubes that would disintegrate if anyone tried to open them. For centuries, they sat in storage, unreadable. Until now. Thanks to high-resolution CT scans and machine learning, scientists have figured out how to unwrap the scrolls digitally. And the results. Actual Greek text, preserved inside blackened parchment. The first word they translated was purple. That single word hadn't been read in nearly 2,000 years. Dr. Lisa Taylor, one of the project leads, described it as listening to a whisper from the past that we thought we'd never hear. And this is just the beginning. There are over 1,000 scrolls left. Who knows what lost knowledge we'll uncover next?
Number 1. Cianchillo. The Ancient Solar Observatory.
In the deserts of Peru stands a line of 13 towers along a ridge, built over 2,300 years ago. For decades, nobody knew what they were. Now we do. It's a solar observatory. A calendar built into the landscape. On the summer solstice, the sun rises behind the rightmost tower.
On the winter solstice, behind the leftmost. On the equinox, dead center.
It's so precise that ancient people could tell the time of year within just a couple of days, using nothing but the sun and some rocks. What's even more amazing is that this observatory predates the Incas by 1,000 years. We don't even know who built it. But we do know that they were master astronomers, engineers, and timekeepers. And here's a beautiful twist. Some of the locals still use it. One guide said his grandmother always planted maize when the sun hit the eastern tower. A legacy passed down for over 2,000 years. So, what do these 9 mysteries tell us? That the ancient world wasn't a slow crawl toward civilization. It was filled with brilliance, with art, engineering, astronomy, science, and sometimes tragedy. People were making permanent ink before chemistry textbooks. They were carving cosmic calendars into cliffs. They were poisoning themselves without realizing it. They were painting statues like comic book characters. And they were leaving behind messages, in stone, wood, water, and fire, that we're only now beginning to read.
RS the big lesson.
Progress doesn't move in one direction. Sometimes we rediscover what was once known. Sometimes we uncover beauty that had been hidden. And sometimes, the past doesn't just inform us, it surprises us. So next time you walk through a museum or look at an old ruin, remember, that statue may have had gold eyebrows. That scroll might still whisper something to us. And that forgotten tower might have once told time more precisely than your smartphone. If that blew your mind even a little, hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Because who knows what other mysteries are waiting just beneath the surface.